pigs.
If you're looking for me, you better check under the sea, 'cause that is where you'll find me, underneath the sea.
Welcome to Water Damage with your host, Gil Mancha. This is my chronological discussion of the King of the Seven Seas, Aquaman. Disclaimer, I will be actively getting and collecting issues as we go, and I'm trying to only cover issues that I have a physical copy of or are in a collected edition. I'm going to try to stray away from digital because I love physical media, but the DC Universe Infinite app would be a great way to keep up with the podcast. Be sure to hit the follow button on Spotify or preferred platform to get episodes as soon as they drop. While you're there, please leave a review so the show can be recommended to other comic book fans. If you play Injustice 2 on Xbox, you can join the official guild Water Damage Podcast, ID 0JMD4. There, our community can play games of Injustice 2, which is currently free on Game Pass. Regardless of who you main, you're welcome to come in, play, or just chat. Follow the Twitter or X account at Water Damage Pod to see when I go live. We can chat and play some games. In today's episode, we're covering Adventure Comics 269, The Kid from Atlantis. Links will be in the podcast notes. This issue was released in February 1960. Let's take a look back at what else was happening that month in history.
Do it again!
Using February 15th as our date, the top of the music charts in the US was Teen Angel by Mark Dinning, and in the UK was Why by Anthony Newley. Top of the box office was Ben-Hur. Popular TV shows include The Ed Sullivan Show, Perry Mason, 77 Sunset Strip, and The Untouchables. If you were a child or a teen, you were watching Tom and Jerry, The Rifleman, Pixie and Dixie and Mr. Jinx, and Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy. Popular toys include Basket miniature basketball, the Frisbee, Tonka trucks, and the Troll Doll. Teen Angel by Mark Denning is actually written by Jean Denning and her husband, Red Surrey. Mark is Jean's brother and performs it. The song wasn't an instant success, and some radio stations in the US actually banned the song because they thought it was too sad. It would climb the charts and hit number 1. The song itself is about a girl and her boyfriend, who's the narrator, who go out for a ride. The car stalls on a railroad track and he pulls her to safety. She runs back to the car and is killed in the collision. When her body is recovered, in her hand is his high school ring, which was why she'd gone back. The last verse ends with the lyrics, "I'll never kiss your lips again. They buried you today." The final line in coda asks the titular teen angel to answer me, please. This song joins prior top song El Paso by Marty Robbins to hit top of the music charts while being songs in which somebody dies tragically. Why by Anthony Newley is actually a cover originally by Frankie Avalon in 1959 and also covered by Donny Osmond. The Avalon version hit number 1 during the week of December 28th, 1959, and here Newley covered it and hit number 1 in February 1960, so very close in time frame. If you're interested in listening to either of the weekly songs or to go back and listen to any of the past songs, be sure to check out the official Water Damage playlist on Spotify. Each episode will update it for your listening pleasure. I haven't seen Ben-Hur, but the summary is, after a Jewish prince is betrayed and sent into slavery by a Roman friend in 1st century Jerusalem, he regains his freedom and comes back for revenge. If you're interested, it's not free on any service, but you can buy or rent it on YouTube, Apple TV, Vudu, Redbox, and Prime Video. The Simpsons reference Ben-Hur several times. In Season 3, Episode 44, Saturdays of Thunder, while Bart and Nelson are soapbox derby racing, the commentator mentions Ben-Hur. Also, Nelson tries to run Bart's soapbox off the road with a whip and spiked wheels, spoofing the chariot race in Ben-Hur. In Season 4, Episode 60, Camp Krusty, the scene where Kearney beats a drum to make the campers work in a sweatshop is a parody of the slave galley scene. In Season 6, Episode 121, A Star is Burns, the opening credits of Burns' film, A Burns for All Seasons, shows Michelangelo's painting of God creating Adam, similar to the opening credits of Ben-Hur. The scene where prisoners in the desert succumb to thirst and are given water by Mr. Burns is a direct parody of a similar scene in Ben-Hur where Jesus Christ gives thirsty prisoners, among which is Judah Ben-Hur, water. In Season 9, Episode 179, The City of New York City versus Homer Simpson, the sequence where Homer races alongside the carriage in Central Park was a reference to a similar scene in Ben-Hur. In Season 9, Episode 185, the two Mrs. Nasahasa Petalines, as Homer and Jasper race down the hallway in their wheelchairs, their wheels rub up against each other just like the chariot race in Ben-Hur. If you've counted it, that's 3 references to the chariot race. Finally, in Season 11, Episode 236, Little Big Mom, Maud Flanders references it when she says, "Remember those scary lepers" in Ben-Hur. We covered The Ed Sullivan Show and 77 Sunset Strip in previous episodes, so they've been covered. Perry Mason is a defense attorney who defends dozens of falsely accused people over the course of this long-running courtroom drama, and he manages to clear each and every one of them, usually by drawing out the real criminal on the witness stand. There's 9 seasons of it on Paramount+. The Untouchables is a crime drama where Elliot Ness leads a group of federal agents against the Chicago mob. Not officially available anywhere, but I think you might have some luck if you try searching it on YouTube. Tom and Jerry is an American animated media franchise and series of comedy short films created in 1940 by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. It's about Tom the cat trying to catch the mouse Jerry, but Jerry always gets one up on Tom. You can find a lot of it uploaded on YouTube by WB Kids, so it seems legit, but it is also on Max. The Rifleman revolves around Lucas McCain, who raises his son while battling dangerous desperados in New Mexico after they decide to move when Lucas's wife dies. It's free on Peacock, Tubi, Sling TV, the Roku channel, Vudu, Crackle, Prime Video, Plex, and via subscriptions on Fubo TV, Stars, Philo, YouTube, and Hulu. Pixie Dixie and Mr. Jinx is a cartoon about 2 cute mice, Pixie and Dixie, constantly trying to outsmart the house cat, Mr. Jinx. Like Tom and Jerry, it's another Hanna-Barbera Productions cartoon. Oddly enough, it looks like there's a lot of it uploaded on various Facebook pages. Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy is a segment on the Quick Draw McGraw Show. It's centered on the misadventures of a dash-hound father and son team. I didn't see this or the Quick Draw McGraw Show readily available anywhere, but if the Boomerang app still exists, I would try there. If you're familiar with the song, top movie, or other events, let me know. On the Spotify app at least, you have a Q&A section where you can reply to my question of what do you think of this issue. You can do it there, social media, or even the YouTube VOD of this episode. While you're there, I have a poll too. What other DC hero would you like to see covered like we do Aquaman? The choices are Dick Grayson's Robin and Nightwing, Sergeant Rock, Blue Beetle, all 3 that we have so far, Booster Gold, and even Shazam. You can pick as many as you want, and I'd love to hear what you think. That's a taste of what the world was like when Adventure Comics 269 was released.
That was outrageous!
I'm reading this thanks to Aquaman, a celebration of 75 years, but it was also reprinted in Showcase Presents Aquaman Volume 1, the Aquaman Archives Volume 1, DC Special Blue Ribbon Digest number 9, and Showcase 79. Just like other issues we've covered here, Adventure Comics is an anthology of stories, and this is the last one behind Superboy. Per usual, it is either the middle or the last. Nothing's beating out the Golden Boy. Again, the story is called The Kid from Atlantis. Aquaman's gloves are still yellow in this one. That said, the Showcase Presents series is in black and white, so if that's your only access to it, you wouldn't know. The story was written by Robert Bernstein, penciled and inked by Ramona Fradon. This cover of Adventure Comics focuses on the Superboy story, so we'll discuss the first panel of the Aquaman story. The Aquaman name is written in red, which is the most common. In the panel, we see the titular Kid from Atlantis cowering behind a rock, hiding from various tiny fish. Why doesn't Aquaman send the fish away? I'm deathly afraid of fish. If they come any closer, I'll faint. Aquaman's in the distance, watching the interaction. Even the smallest, most harmless fish terrify the poor lad. I must make him overcome this fear before he dies of sheer terror. The text explains how hydrophobia is the fear of water, agoraphobia is the fear of crowds, and claustrophobia is the fear of narrow places. One day, Aquaman finds a boy from Atlantis who has a fear of fish, which does not even have a name, whose finding a cure for this is a matter of life and death to the Kid from Atlantis. As a side note, the fear of fish is ichthyophobia. I think I got that right. I couldn't figure out when the term was coined, but being decades ago, it's not like you could just go on Google and search for it. Since this comic isn't on the DC Universe Infinite app, I can't read you guys the About This Book section. After the break, we'll summarize the issue.
Is Aquaman finished? Can you make it to the bathroom before we return with part 2 of the show?
What it do, guys? Manjame here, and if you like board games, especially deck building games, you should check out @Team_Thunder on YouTube. There we have unboxings and games of Legendary, a Marvel deck building game, the DC deck building game, the Transformers deck building game, and many more. That's also where you can find VODs for this and Accelerated Visions, a Spider-Man 2099 podcast where you can directly leave a comment and we can discuss the issues.
The Superman Aquaman Hour of Adventure, featuring Aquaman, King of the Seven Seas, and your favorite comic book superheroes in their own adventure stories. It's 60 minutes of thrills and fun, next on most of these stations.
The story starts with Topo and a swordfish summoning Aquaman to a sealed capsule floating in the water. Inside is a young boy. Aquaman opens it and hopes the fresh air will revive the dazed child. It does, but when he looks around, he's startled. No! Take the fish away! Take them away! They'll kill me! Aquaman tries to explain that they won't, that they're part of his patrol. He hugs the boy and he tells him he's Aquaman, ruler of the sea and its creatures, so the boy is safe with him. No, I'm afraid of them. If they obey your orders, please send them away. Please! He does, and they retreat into the sea. The boy thanks him and tells him he's been afraid of fish since the day he was born. Now is when Aquaman notices that the boy has purple eyes like Aquagirl had. That means he's from Atlantis. It explains how the boy was able to communicate with Aquaman. All Atlanteans have the telepathic ability to understand and speak any language, which I don't think was previously established. Aquaman goes on to explain how the boy's connection to Atlantis explains the capsule. Since he was deemed unfit to live in Atlantis, he was sent to the world above for the best chance at life. Notably, the Atlanteans call the above world Earth. So they say the only place where this child can survive is Earth. I think today they would just call it land or on the land. The boy is amazed and asks how he knows all of this. Aquaman turns away from the child and tells him, "Because my mother came from Atlantis. She told me that Atlantis' ancestors were originally Earth folk who built a huge dome over their land before it sank into the ocean." He goes on to explain how as the water seeped in, the people adapted to the watery environment, but occasionally a child would be born who could not survive there. The telltale is purple eyes, which they called a throwback to their Earth ancestors. He ends his explanation by saying that since a purple-eyed infant would eventually die, they'd fire them in a capsule to the world above. What's weird is that the boy is older. Why'd they wait so long to send him? The boy tells him, "Because I'm different. I can live in water, but was born with the fear of fish." They let him stay in Atlantis, hoping he'd outgrow his fear, but that never happened. In fact, it got worse. It shows a scene where he's presumably with his father and grips him tight, thinking the fish are coming close and will kill him. The man takes pity on him, thinking he's half crazed with fear. Remember, whenever anyone is underwater, they're thinking bubbles, not speaking bubbles. Okay, never mind, because in the next panel, the boy and Aquaman are underwater and he has a speech bubble saying that they sent him above to save him from going insane from fear, but admits no one will miss him because his parents died in an accident years ago. Maybe the man he was hugging wasn't his father because he looked about the same age as he does now in the flashback. Aquaman thinks, "Poor kid, he needs help." Well said, my guy. When they both get to the surface, Aquaman puts his hand on the lad's shoulder, telling him some people on Earth have fears of heights, water, or crowds, but can often be cured. He asks the boy if he would like him to remove his fear of fishes. "Gosh, could you?" Aquaman tells him, "Yes. Just follow orders and maybe you'll return to Atlantis, completely fearless." The boy quickly hugs Aquaman while there's a flying fish passing nearby. The boy's grateful because right now, even though those flying fish are passing by, I'm scared even to look at them. He's really got his work cut out for him. Later, while underwater, the boy is standing waiting when Aquaman arrives. He's bringing a hoop and stick. The boy thinks he's brought him that because he told Aquaman he's homesick and misses his toys. Shortly, the boy's playing by pushing the hoop with the stick when Aquaman unleashes his surprise. Minutes later, he gets the hoop and stick from the boy and shows him that they're actually eels pretending to be those objects. Well, was that so bad? Were these fish so frightening? No, but I'd rather play with something else. Isn't there a sliding pool around? Doesn't seem like he was very into the idea of being around the eels after finding out. Next, we see the boy sliding off a water spout coming out of the water. He thanks Aquaman for finding it. I love playing in the water when there's no fish around. Aquaman smiles, telling him to have another look, son. Both the spout and Aquaman are raised upward as a whale is revealed to be behind the water spout. The boy sounds betrayed. It's a whale blowing water. I'm sliding down a whale spout, Aquaman. Easy, son. My fish only want to make friends with you. Next, you'll meet Topo, my octopus pal. Soon after, we see Topo swinging the boy around like a merry-go-round. The boy proclaims that he's not afraid of fish, as long as Aquaman's near him. Here's where we get my quote of the issue.
What's the matter, Aquaman?
I don't know. The fish are trying to tell me something.
Well, as it happens, son, I must go out now on patrol. You'll be safe here with Topo. And Aquaman swims away from him. I just love how Aquaman's like, okay, you're good, and you'll stay good and safe while I go to work. I mean, he's not actively part of this activity, so, he can be good and well while the kid is here, and he can see how harmless the fish friends are even while he's gone. The boy's not okay with it, telling Aquaman wherever he goes, the boy's going too. Aquaman doesn't fight the danger that the boy might get into, but he sees it as an opportunity for the boy to see how helpful the sea creatures are, so that he'll realize that they're friends and not enemies. The two find a sailboat in distress. The sails were shredded by a gale and won't be able to make it to port without a new sail. A new sail, eh? I'll have one for you in a few minutes. Instead of finding cloth, Aquaman uses his incredible ingenuity to summon a huge manta ray to fasten itself to the sailboat's mast. Aquaman explains how the manta's body is thin and flexible enough to catch the wind, although he does warn that the second he gets to land, he needs to release it. Of course, your finny friends are our friends, Aquaman. The boy has a complete 180, saying he doesn't know what he was afraid of. I was so wrong about fish. Fish don't want to hurt anybody. Aquaman smirks and says how he hasn't seen anything yet. At sundown the same day, someone from a giant ship tells Aquaman that the pilot was knocked unconscious and their route is full of jagged reefs. Without a pilot, we're sunk. Aquaman confidently tells him, I'll get 100 pilots for you. He wasn't kidding, because what he summons are called pilot fish, which normally guide and protect sharks from danger. In this case, they'll guide the freighter to safety. It's amazing what help fish can be, exclaims the boy. Later that night, the two see a plane blinking its distress signal and needs to make an emergency landing. It's too dark for it to see. Since every inhabitant of Atlantis had the telepathic power to command fish, Aquaman orders the boy to get to work. Uneasy at first, he's able to issue some orders to some luminous fish to have them light up the ocean, making a landing strip. The plane lands safely. Having commanded the fish and gotten over the fear, Aquaman tells him he can now go back to Atlantis. The boy disagrees. But I don't want to go back. I've got nobody to return to. You're like a father to me. I want to stay here and help you. Aquaman's not having it, calling this impossible. He can't provide a home, and Atlantis is his home, disregarding the fact that he just told him that he had no one to return to. Aquaman told him to go through the lock that the capsule had gone through. They make a many-hour trip. Aquaman stands outside the giant dome that is Atlantis, waving to the boy as he's swimming toward the dome when several fish swim by. He's upset with the fish because he wanted one last look at the kid before he left. He thinks about how he's become fond of the kid. A minute later, he sees him passing through the lock. He's happy that he got rid of his phobia and can live happily in Atlantis, but he'll still miss him. The next day, a sad Aquaman is playing the hoop and stick game again with the eels. He sees the boy coming and he thinks he misses him so much that he's seeing things. It's a real boy who realizes that he'd miss him so much that he's playing the game that he'd played earlier. Aquaman drops the eel and they go back to being eels as he swims after the kid who swims toward the surface. He's happy the kid's back, but he knows he'd seen him go through the lock. The kid, meanwhile, is thinking about how he didn't. Since he's not afraid of fish anymore, he commanded two of the swordfish that had blocked Aquaman's view to put on his suit. What Aquaman had seen was two fish in his clothes. Luckily for him, he had another uniform back at the capsule. An hour later, after hearing the lad's story, the two are on top of Topo and Aquaman's laying the ground rules. It won't be easy living with me. You'll have to behave yourself, go to school, work long hours, and no more tricks. He happily agrees. Right, the kid from Atlantis is your kid now. The happiest kid in the 7 seas. The end. See you next issue for another Aqualad story. After the break, we'll go over some thoughts and feelings about the issue.
Wait a minute. That was no joke. Somebody tried to kill me. That or we're not paying Mr. Slippery enough. Holy Neptune's trident. This has to be the work of the Legion of Doom. Hey, there's an echo inside my head. Echo. Echo. Echo.
You okay, Aquaman?
Echo. Echo. What? Oh, no problem.
This was a fun little comic. I don't know if the stakes could have been any lower, though. The only trouble that came was the sailboat, the freighter, and the plane. Yes, all three could have ended in death, but none are faced with the seriousness that they would otherwise need. Got a bad sail? Manta ray. We did get some slight aggression from Aquaman when he's like, but when it gets to port, you better frame right away. Granted, it could be performative anger to show Aqualad he was serious about his finny friends' well-being. Need guidance? Pilot fish. I can't say I knew it was a thing before and wasn't made up for the comic, but I'm sure over the course of these comics that we'll accidentally learn more and more about fish. Now, this one seems to be the most dangerous, having a plane that needs to crash land? Aquaman doesn't address it himself, which would have been much quicker. He either knew Aqualad could do it in time, or, push came to shove, he could get the fish moving quick enough. Aqualad is the one that summoned so many luminous fish to light the way. Now that I think about it, it might have been the most obvious fix of the three. I would never have thought to summon a manta ray in the first scenario, and I didn't really know that pilot fish even existed to solve the second scenario. The third, though, we've seen luminous fish in the series before, so the idea of fish making light isn't an uncommon one generally. Now, Aqualad as a character debuted 20 years after Robin, but there's some clear similarities. They're both younger versions of the main superhero with similar abilities, but maybe they have things to learn and can show off that youthful energy. They're characters that the reader, who was probably closer to the age of the younger characters, can put themselves in as they read and live through. You can argue that adding a younger character like Aqualad lowers the stakes of the stories, but as we've seen, Aquaman's have been pretty low stakes so far. I mean, we've only encountered a few villains, and there was one comic that had bad guys in it. Aquaman had gotten himself stuck between two glaciers. That time he tricked a guy by painting some wood to make it look like his fishy friends had lifted a giant metal safe. We got a silly boy here, so I'm perfectly fine with adding Aqualad. If you're not a fan of it, let me know, but also know that it won't be as long-standing as Batman and Robin. What do you think? Did you read the comic? Did I get something wrong? If I do and you guys let me know, I'll include a corrections section in the next episode and I'll credit the user. Let's continue the discussion on social media and the YouTube VOD. You can find me at WaterDamagePod on YouTube or X and at Team_Thunder on YouTube. If you're looking for another podcast to listen to and want to learn more about the Spider-Man of the future, check out Accelerated Visions, a Spider-Man 2099 podcast on Spotify and anywhere you can find podcasts. Be sure to follow that and this podcast to get episodes as soon as they drop. Manjame out.
Whew, man. Glad that stopped before things got worse.